Congressman Khanna is a Democrat of California who serves on the Oversight Committee. Tim Miller, a writer at large for The Bulwark and a former communications director for Jeb Bush, and both join me now. Congressman Khanna, let me start with you on the substance of some of this, particularly this proposal. Buddy Carter is the Georgia politician, I'm not mistaken, who's wanted this for a while. He wants to completely defund and abolish the IRS, give everyone a 30% national sales tax. There apparently was an agreement between Kevin McCarthy and him that he gets a floor vote on this. Are Democrats shaking in their boots at fear of having to vote on this bill?
Chris, I can't believe what they're doing. After running the midterms on saying that the price of eggs are too much, that the price of bacon is too much, price of gas is too much, the first thing they want to do is increase those prices by 30%. They want to have a tax raise for the working class. And we know that working class and middle class Americans are the ones who buy things. The rich, they're in the stocks and bonds. And so the Democrats are saying, let's tax wealth. That's President Biden. And they're saying, no, let's tax the working and middle class.
You know, Tim, it's interesting. I've been watching parts of the sort of, I guess, what's left of the intelligence and the American right try to throw the brakes on this idea, like the Wall Street Journal opinion page and the National Review people being like, guys, I don't think this is a good idea. But it speaks to the fact that Kevin McCarthy made these bargains and these deals to get these people, to get himself speaker, and he's going to have to pay up.
Oh, he definitely is. And look, this Kevin McCarthy, Marjorie Taylor Greene marriage is the most prime example of what I've called the new MAGA establishment, right? Like we spend all this time talking about, oh, there's these internal fractures within the party and the fights between the Tea Party, the MAGA crazies and the moderate governing wing to the extent that exists. But that isn't really, while those little fissures still come up from time to time, and while there'll still be disagreements over things like Ukraine within the caucus, like really what is formed is this merger, right, with MAGA Trumpism, that you have an establishment figure like Kevin McCarthy and Marjorie Taylor Greene working together, and they are going to still, generally speaking, try to pass some of these, pro-corporate, kind of tax cut types of things that the Wall Street Journal is going to like from time to time. But then they're also going to have to focus on these hot button culture issues, whatever it is that pops up from random members or from the bottom up. And there are going to be times where the Wall Street Journal doesn't like that, because the thing is, the Wall Street, they're not part of this new MAGA establishment, right? Like that's yesterday's men. And so that is really what has happened here, that McCarthy now is completely emboldened to the MAGA side, as long as they just tamp things down just a little bit, like just enough to make him feel comfortable that he can stay on and win.
Although there's also the guts of this deal, and I want to ask you this, Congressman Khanna, because today they announced the Rules Committee. And the Rules Committee is the way that the House majority and the Speaker particularly wields power. And there was a lot of talk during those failed votes that there had been committee slots promised to the most far-right members of the caucus on rules, which is a huge deal, right? It's a fulcrum of power. Today we got news that he's likely to name the following lawmakers, House Rules Committee: Nick Langworthy, Ralph Norman, Thomas Massie, Chip Roy, Aaron Hutchin. Now, Massie, Roy, and Norman are all like pretty hardcore, right? And Massie's kind of a Ron Paul figure, and sometimes he's voting completely by himself. Roy and Norman were part of the, opposition to Kevin McCarthy. How significant is it to have these people serving on that committee?
Chris, here's why this matters, and it's not some insider baseball thing. These three people basically now have veto power on any bill that comes to the floor of the House. So you know how extreme things are when Donald Trump is worried that these far-right folks may cut Social Security. Donald Trump is begging them, please don't cut Social Security, please don't ban abortion in all cases. But these folks are further to the right than him, and any deal that McCarthy does on debt ceiling or anything else, they're going to have a veto over. And really, they're running the House.
Yeah, I also got to wonder. I mean, I did think the news about them pulling this plan for a border bill was a little interesting, Tim, because, I mean, again, leverage is there if you exercise it. If you're the 18 members in those Biden districts, it's a narrow majority. If you could show that you could, I mean, this is organizing 101, right? Like, you've got the numbers. If you can organize, you can have some leverage, too, that doesn't have, McCarthy and Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, hammering together the barrel to send you over the waterfall in.
Yeah, for sure. Just one thing really quick on those rules committee members. Of note, Ralph Norman was the guy that was texting Mark Meadows calling for martial law, right? So it isn't even just that he's extreme on policy, and this was, he literally was advocating for the coup. So on the immigration element to it, I do think that these so-called moderates are going to flex muscle behind the scenes when they can't, right? Like there are enough of them. Like if you just, as a rubric, I look at the gay marriage vote, right? There were 47 Republicans in the House that voted for that. So, you have a couple dozen people that might be relatively, in the realm of the mainstream America. Behind the scenes, they might try to stop some of this stuff. But the thing is, none of them have demonstrated that they have the interest or the power to do it when these bills come to the floor, when there is actually a public fight, when Fox News might get their teeth into them. And until any of them show that they are willing to use that power in public fights, mostly this is only going to help on the margins and behind the scenes stuff.
Your point there, Congressman Khanna, that point about Ralph Norman, who did text that, martial law to Chief of Staff Meadows. It's just, today we have this conviction. 4 members of the Oath Keepers for seditious conspiracy. Very, very rare crime to be charged in the U.S. People aren't trying to overturn the government that much. Rare to get a conviction because it's difficult, because First Amendment protections really mean something and should mean something for defendants of this, right? There's a line of protected political speech, no matter how odious. You've got convictions here. You've got hundreds who have been tried. You've got an active investigation. It's just wild to think about going to work every day now with the hands of this House in the hands of people like Ralph Norman, who were, in secret, behind the scenes, not for he wasn't performing for folks, wanted there to be martial law in the United States of America.
And it's bad when Mick Mulvaney was opposed to Ralph Norman. Ralph Norman succeeded Mick Mulvaney, the former chief of staff to Donald Trump. But here's what I don't get. If there was one lesson in the midterms, it was that the American people don't want crazy. They don't want election deniers. They don't want insurrections. And they're basically handed the keys to the people most responsible for the election denial and insurrection.